New Orleans is more than a city. It is a rhythm, memory, a living archive of joy, pain, resistance, and survival. When people think of New Orleans, they often picture Mardi Gras parades, jazz bands, Creole food, and vibrant street culture. But beneath the celebration lies a much deeper story, one written largely by African Americans. Their labor built the city, their culture defined it, and their resilience sustained it. Today, we are exploring one of the most important spaces dedicated to preserving that legacy. The New Orleans African American Museum, often called NOAM. This museum is not just a building filled with artifacts. It is a sacred space of memory, one that tells the story of how New Orleans became a center of African American life, culture, creativity, and resistance. Let us explore the historical roots of New Orleans, the African presence from slavery to freedom, the significance of the Treme neighborhood, the origin of the New Orleans African American Museum, and why preserving Black history matters now more than ever. So settle in, because this is not just history. This is heritage. The founding of New Orleans. New Orleans was founded in 1718 by the French under Jean-Baptiste Le Moyne de Bienville. From the very beginning, the city was shaped by colonial ambition and the forced labor of African people. Unlike many American cities, New Orleans was influenced by three colonial powers: France, Spain, and later the United States. Each brought different laws, languages, and social structures, but slavery remained central under all three. Enslaved Africans were brought primarily from Senegambia, Congo, Benin, Nigeria. These Africans did not arrive empty-handed. They brought spiritual traditions, musical rhythms, agricultural knowledge, language patterns, artistic expression. This African influence blended with European and Caribbean cultures to create something entirely unique: Afro-Creole culture. Slavery and Black life in colonial New Orleans. Slavery in New Orleans was different, but not gentler. Under French and Spanish rule, enslaved people were governed by the Code Noir, which allowed limited rights: the right to marry, the right to be baptized, the right to own small amounts of property. This system led to a unique population of free people of color, many of whom owned businesses, received formal education, worked as artisans, musicians, and builders. But make no mistake, slavery was still brutal. African Americans built roads, levees, homes, churches, plantations. They were bought, sold, punished, and separated from families. One of the most significant cultural spaces to emerge during this period was Congo Square. Congo Square and cultural survival. Congo Square, located near today's Louis Armstrong Park, was one of the only places in North America where enslaved Africans were allowed to gather. On Sundays they danced, drummed, sang, practiced spiritual rituals. These gatherings preserved African identity in a system designed to erase it. The rhythms played in Congo Square became the foundation of blues, gospel, funk. Without Congo Square, there is no New Orleans sound. This legacy is deeply connected to the neighborhood that would later house the New Orleans African American Museum, Treme. The Treme neighborhood. Treme is one of the oldest Black neighborhoods in the United States. It was home to free people of color, skilled craftsmen, civil rights activists, musicians, and intellectuals. Treme became a cultural powerhouse, birthplace of jazz legends, home to social aid and pleasure clubs, a center of Black resistance and pride. Despite segregation and discrimination, Treme thrived. But the neighborhood also suffered. Urban renewal projects, highway construction, economic neglect, Hurricane Katrina. Through it all, Treme remained a symbol of African American endurance. And within Treme stands a group of historic buildings that would later become NOAM. The buildings that became the museum. The New Orleans African American Museum is housed in a complex of 19th-century structures, including a former plantation-style home, slave quarters, Creole cottage. These buildings once represented oppression, but today they have been reclaimed. This transformation is powerful. What was once a site connected to enslavement is now a place of education, pride, and healing. The museum's physical space itself tells a story of transformation, of reclamation, of resilience. The founding of the New Orleans African American Museum. The museum was founded in 1996 by Dr. Dwight McKenna, an African American artist, scholar, and cultural preservationist. His vision was simple but profound: to create a space where African American history could be told by African Americans, for future generations. The museum focuses on art, history, education, community engagement. Unlike traditional museums, NOAM emphasizes living history, connecting the past to present struggles and creativity. The New Orleans African American Museum is a comprehensive museum within the Myler Goldthwait House that showcases numerous artifacts from African American history, with a focus on Louisiana. The collection showcases several bits of culture, history, and art you can examine. The first enslaved Africans arrived in New Orleans in 1719, 1 year after the city's founding. In the preceding 300-plus years, Blacks' impact on the city has helped it become one of the world's most culturally diverse and exciting places to explore. Every aspect of culture in New Orleans is tied to the Black experience, says Bradley Sumrall, a curator at the city's Ogden Museum of Southern Art in the Warehouse Arts District, just outside the French Quarter. The food for which we're so famous was heavily influenced by African traditions. American music was born here, and its architects were almost exclusively Black. Dance, theater, literature, and the visual arts are all deeply informed by the Black experience in New Orleans. Visit the Ogden, a 47,000-square-foot, 5-story facility, in this fantastic city and treat yourself to one of the country's finest collections of work by Black artists, across all mediums. Showcasing Black artists through its acquisitions and exhibitions has been the primary focus of the Ogden since its opening in 2003. Legendary Black artist Benny Andrews even served as the first artist member of its board of trustees. Not only was he a huge voice in American art, but he was an advocate who championed the inclusion of women and artists of color in museum collections, Sumrall says. He brought those concepts into the very conceptual planning of the Ogden and its mission. The Ogden now holds the largest public collection of Andrews' work, 242 drawings, watercolors, and oil paintings, many of which you can see in a gallery dedicated to this essential painter and activist, who died in 2006. In his best-known and most powerful works, Andrews brilliantly delivers figurative paintings of Black people living in the rural South, the very life he himself lived, having been born in Plainville, Georgia, in 1930. Viewing his art, you'll likely feel empathy for his subjects because, through his skillful brushwork, he shares their burdens, their hunger, their toil, their concerns. He doesn't put viewers just in the scene, but also in his subjects' souls. You feel their humanity. One standout: his 1965 Death of the Crow. Although the 1964 Civil Rights Act ended the Jim Crow era of legal segregation around the nation, the figure in Andrews' painting seems skeptical. The crow, with outstretched talons and a pointy beak, may have fight in it yet, and history would prove the artist's suspicion correct. What the museum houses. The New Orleans African American Museum holds African and African American art, historical artifacts, exhibits on slavery, freedom, and resistance, contemporary works by Black artists. Themes explored include the African diaspora, Reconstruction, Jim Crow segregation, civil rights movements, Hurricane Katrina and displacement. The museum also honors Black women, spiritual traditions, music and performance, social justice movements. Every exhibit answers one key question: how did African Americans shape New Orleans and America itself? One of the most impressive highlights of the New Orleans African American Museum is its diverse permanent collection. Much of it consists of genuine African beadwork, masks, costumes, and musical instruments. In fact, you'll find a 70-piece set of original African artwork that comes from the Democratic Republic of Congo. The temporary exhibits have much to offer as well and tend to have the same general themes as the permanent collection. You'll sometimes find works on display from artists who aren't natives or residents of Louisiana, such as John Rosenthal's photographs of Hurricane Katrina's aftermath. The museum as a community space. OAM is not just a museum, it is a community hub. It hosts educational programs, artist residencies, school tours, cultural festivals. It gives local voices a platform and ensures that history is not frozen behind glass, but lived, discussed, and shared. Why this museum matters today. In a time when Black history is being challenged, cultural spaces are underfunded, communities are being displaced. The New Orleans African American Museum stands as a form of resistance. It reminds us that Black history is American history, culture is power, memory is survival. Without spaces like this, stories disappear. New Orleans tells its story through sound, movement, and memory. The New Orleans African American Museum ensures that this story is not forgotten, rewritten, or erased. It honors ancestors. It empowers descendants. And it invites all of us to listen to history, to culture, and to truth. If you ever walk through Treme, remember, every brick, every rhythm, every story matters. This is not just a museum. It is a testament. If you enjoyed this deep exploration of history, like this video, subscribe to the channel, share this story, because history only survives when we tell it. Thank you for watching.